All right. So last week I ended the episode and got a icebreaker out there for you. Favorite cereals from childhood and now, if you eat cereal now. Since it's my icebreaker, I guess I'll go ahead and
Sure.
go first. And this really came about because, honestly, the night before, I had a bowl of cereal. I get cereal on occasion, and I have a bowl of cereal some nights. It's kind of replaced ice cream for me. Like, I would get ice cream, and I'd have that every so often. And then one day, I was walking through the grocery store, and we're walking down the cereal aisle, and I was like, man, I really want some cereal, but I don't like having cereal first thing in the morning. Like, all that dairy in the morning doesn't really agree with me too well, and it just kind of, it's too heavy, and I don't feel great, until about lunchtime and all that passes. So I was like, maybe I'll have it for a dessert. So I got a box of cereal to have for like a dessert. So it replaces ice cream. I mean, it's milk and cereal, or milk and sugar, and it's perfect, right? And calorically, it's better, I'm sure. I haven't done any real research on that, but yeah, I feel better about it. And, it's not ice cold. And I still have ice cream on occasion. But anyway, so cereal's kind of replaced ice cream for me in a way, and I have it on occasion. Now, my favorite one to get is Frosted Flakes. I get a box of Frosted Flakes. I have me some Frosted Flakes. It's a great little dessert. I love it.
You're such.
But growing up, my favorite one is I racked my brain. I was trying to think of like what it was. I was like, it can't be this one because I could have sworn there was something else, but I don't know. Growing up, we always had like Cheerios and like Rice Krispies were always in the house, but those were not my favorites. If I got to pick the cereal, I liked to get Honey Smacks.
Oh, yeah.
That was always my favorite one growing up. Specifically with the frog, not the bear, not Golden Crisps, but Honey Smacks with Smacking the Frog. That's the one I liked. And I don't see it that often, but maybe I'll get one for a dessert later in the week. But, that's for me. Honey Smacks growing up was my favorite. Lucky Charms was number 2. Now, today, I like to get a bowl of Frosted Flakes, and I enjoy a bowl of Frosted Flakes. So, how about you?
Frosted Flakes. I used to have a shirt that was the Honey Smacks logo, because back in like the early 2000s, they were like printing all these T-shirts that had, old nostalgic logos, and I don't know what happened to it. I was never too big on anything with marshmallows. So the Lucky Charms are out the window for me. My go-to was Peanut Butter Crunch. Absolutely delicious. And I
Captain Crunch peanut butter? Or?
Just Peanut Butter Crunch. Yeah, I mean, it's made by Captain Crunch, but it's just Peanut Butter Crunch. I don't like Captain Crunch. I don't like the mixed whatever, Oops All Berries or
All Berries,
whatever. Because I'm not a fruity cereal guy. I don't like that fruity flavor. But I do love some peanut butter, or some Captain Crunch, Peanut Butter Crunch. Sorry, anyway, I do love some Peanut Butter Crunch.
One. Yeah.
Still do. I don't know if it's my favorite cereal. So I don't eat a lot of cereal. My wife is like you. She will eat it in the evening sometimes. Sometimes that's her meal, is just a bowl of cereal, and she's fine with it. Now, the thing is, when I eat cereal, I don't know how yours is, but when I eat it, I pour the cereal in, I pour some milk in, and then I eat it immediately because I like that crunch.
Yes.
My wife will pour the cereal in, pour the milk in, go and do something, sometimes take a shower and come back so it is just like soggy, and then she eats it like that. It's so gross. It's so gross.
No, I'm with you. I gotta have the crunch. I fill up the cereal bowl with cereal, and then I hold my hand on the cereal and pour milk into the, around my thumb and finger or whatever, in that little section there. So I hold the cereal down so that and I pour milk in until it comes right up underneath of there, and then I let off. Otherwise, it all floats up, and then I start to have cereal overflowing. So you got to hold that cereal down and get enough milk in there. And I like the milk at the end. Like, my wife doesn't like the milk at the end. I like the milk at the end. I like the sugary, milk that you end up with.
I don't
love
like-
it. And same thing with Oreos. If I have Oreos and I got like milk and I dip the Oreos in there, I like the milk at the end. My wife doesn't. She'll get a glass of milk. She'll dip the Oreos. She'll have the Oreos. And then the whole glass of milk goes to waste. She just pours it down the drain. And I'm like, that's great milk. She's like, do you want it? I'm like, no, I don't want somebody else's milk. I want my own. But
yeah, I don't like drinking the milk afterwards. I do because I don't want to waste the milk. But literally the milk, I put the bare minimum in there, and just to get not just so I'm not eating like dog food, dry, cereal. So I do that.
Let's get a little bit on each.
And it makes the I like the cold and the crunch and everything. And but I don't. I mean, I feel like when I drink that milk, it's like I'm drinking my spit because the spoon has been back in there and everything, and I just don't. I don't like it. But to answer.
I don't drool that much when I'm eating.
Well, I mean,
it's like
I have a thing, like, I will eat soup. I'm not going to say I don't eat soup, but I have to be in the right mindset to eat soup because it's the spoon going back in, and I feel like I'm just like putting spit in the bowl every time, and I don't like it. And that's how I feel with my cereal. But yeah, to answer your question though, so when I was a kid, it was Peanut Butter Crunch, and now I think I can't remember the name of it. I may have some in the cabinet. I'm not going to get up and go look at it, but it's Cheerios with like crunchy oat clusters, and it's got a cinnamon flavor to it.
Apple cinnamon.
No,
Cheerios.
It's not apple. It's just like plain like cinnamon sugar flavor, but it's like multi-grain Cheerios with like Honey Bunches of Oats, like the clusters that are in Honey Bunches of Oats.
That's a good
it's
one.
Those in with Cheerios, and it's got a cinnamon flavor. It's pretty darn good.
Right. Yeah. I think Honey Bunches of Oats might be my second favorite now. It's the one with the flakes and like the crunchy bunches of oats. Yeah, that one's a good one. I like that one. Yeah. Oh man. Oreos and hey, I got sugar in mine. At least Frosted Flakes, and it's a little. It's a little.
You get to an age where it's like, do I really? Well, you apparently do because you still eat Frosted Flakes, but do I really want all that sugar?
Yeah, that's what it's for.
But I don't know.
See, but it's not a breakfast for me. It's a dessert.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. So it's got to be sweet. I need a sweet dessert.
Yeah.
We found we were at some store, some like candy store, and they had a box, like a small cereal box, like a little bit smaller than like a small cereal box, and it was just all of like the Lucky Charms type marshmallows, just like all those little marshmallows and like the different colors and everything. Me and my daughter both love those, so we got one of those and we had some marshmallows. It was good. I like the marshmallows.
I just can't do
like whenever I go to when I do hot cocoa, the hot cocoa that has the little white marshmallows in it, that's the one I want. That's the best one. And I even found like you can buy a little jar of just those little dried marshmallows. Oh,
they're not marshmallows.
I make a hot chocolate with a ton of marshmallows.
It's not marshmallows. Like a marshmallow's fluffy. This is like, here, let's give you colored sugar that is hardened and has been formed into the shape of a marshmallow. And when it gets wet, it'll slightly expand.
It's a little soggy, a little crunch. I love it.
Just call it marshmallows.
All right. That was cereal talk. Okay. Well, we'll be back with their episode. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
In 3, 2, 1. Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there today. Yes, that's right. We're talking Groundhog's Day today. Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your booties out there, because it's cold out there today. That's right. We're talking Groundhog Day today. Okay, campers, rise... No, I'm not going to do it again.
Thank you.
That's right, Groundhog Day. We're talking Groundhog Day today. Today is... It's a little past Groundhog Day, but... You know, this is a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a lot of fun rewatching it, and... Yeah, like, this is a tradition for me and my wife. We'll watch Groundhog Day on Groundhog Day. So we watched it a little early so we could record this episode and everything in advance. I don't know if we'll watch it again, but maybe. I don't know. I had a lot of fun rewatching it. How about you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. This was a fresh watch for me. I'd never seen this movie before.
Oh, you've never seen this movie before?
It used like TBS used to play it every Groundhog Day. I never watched it.
I'm shocked.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was good. I really liked it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, February 12th, 1993. This movie came out. February 12th. That's not even Groundhog Day. That's like 10 days after Groundhog Day. They missed the mark there. I wonder what happened.
It's
I don't know.
I wonder what I don't want to look at it, but I wonder what maybe the second wasn't like a release day or something. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. Well, you get around there, right? You just
Just
release it on the
release it.
second
Yeah.
because it's Groundhog Day. I don't know. Anyways, it was Illinois stood in for Philadelphia here because Puxatawny is in Philadelphia. But yeah, let's see here. Let's go over the numbers. Budget of $14.6 million. This movie was considered a success. Opening weekend, $12.5 million. With a worldwide gross of $71 million. Not bad.
That is
Not
good.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this movie I've seen, I remember this was like a movie I watched in high school with friends. This is a movie that I've seen countless times, so many times. Like, this is one of those movies that I'm always quoting with my friends. But yeah, so this is the first time you've seen it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know some of the more popular bits of the movie just because it's, you know, it's ingrained in pop culture, you know, and like I said, TBS would like air it all the time. So they would like advertise it and they'd have, you know, clips of like him coming across, what was that guy's name? Ned. Is it Ned? Yes.
Ned, yeah.
And
Ned.
stuff like that. But yeah, this was the first time watching it. And it was good. It was really good.
Thoroughly enjoyed it?
I did.
All right. Excellent. Good. Glad to hear that. All right. So, wow, I did not expect this to be your first watching. I would have probably came at this from a whole different angle, but all right. Yeah. I felt like in the beginning, watching it again today, or this week rather, I was kind of, I mean, I suppose you're supposed to, but I was a little annoyed with the Phil character in the beginning. I found him to be just an unforgiving jerk.
Yeah. I did too, and I stuck with it. Well, I mean, I had to because we were going to be talking about it. But I thought to myself, this can't be how the movie's going to end with him being like this. Like, he's going to have to learn something about himself, you know, and change his ways. Is how I thought about it. I mean, I was right, but which I'm not right very often. So there we go. But yeah. So I just kind of pushed through that because I'm like, oh, he's a jerk, but I'm sure like that's going to be the lesson learned at the end of this. You know, like, you don't have to act this way towards people, you know, and you don't have to be so full of yourself and, you know, well, everything that goes along with what happens to him in this movie.
Yeah. Now I'll get you with some behind the scenes trivia here. Did you know that this movie is cited as one of the biggest reasons why we didn't get a Ghostbusters 3 for so long? Yeah, apparently Harold Ramis and Bill Murray had such a falling out making this movie that they didn't speak again for, I think, like 10 years.
They had one scene together.
But you got to remember, Ramis, I believe, directed it.
Did he?
Wrote it, directed it.
Okay, I didn't look and see who
this
directed
was his
it.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah. He directed
Okay.
it. He wrote and directed it. Yeah. So, there was a bit of a falling out. I don't know all the details of it. I haven't gone in to look at it. It's just kind of like you hear things whenever they talk about the movie in interviews and stuff like that. They did reconcile, but yeah, like they had a big falling out from this movie. Apparently, Bill Murray was a bit of a prima donna, and you hear him tell it, and Ramis was a little controlling. So, yeah, they had a bit of a falling out over it, which is kind of sad. I mean, they were great friends, been in so much together, and then did this one project together, and it just...
Too much.
Yeah, drove that wedge. Too much time together, I guess. I don't know. They're just like great personalities. You put them together, and sometimes things happen like this. But,
I have heard from other reading other interviews or whatever that Bill Murray can be a little difficult to work with.
yeah.
I don't know about Harold Ramis. You don't hear as much, about people working, with him so much. But, I don't know. I remember one time, watching it. I was watching the Academy Awards, and it was when he was up for Best Picture for Lost in Translation. Or not Best Lead Actor or whatever for Lost in Translation. And he didn't get it. And he got up and started walking out of the building. Now, I don't know if that was him just trying to do a joke or what, but I remember the people on the stage were like, "Whoa, Bill, wait, we love you, man," or whatever. I don't know. So when I read things like that and I remember that in my mind, I'm like, yeah.
You see things like that, and you're like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah. There's been a lot of that. And then at the same time, you hear things about, Bill Murray just, being the greatest to fans. Fans will meet him on the street, and he's like, oh, yeah, you want to do a photo? Let's do a photo. You want me to call your buddy and leave a voicemail for him? I'll leave a voicemail for him. Just, sometimes he'll, go out and just, hang out with random strangers all night long. Go to their house and, be at, a house party, and, he's spotted in all these different locations, and just, eccentric in that way.
Yeah.
But, and then you also hear that, he's difficult to work with. And it's like, maybe, you
can
be both,
I think
suppose,
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's got different personalities and different... I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it, but yeah. I did not expect... I didn't look at the credits and see that Harold Ramis was directing it, but I was very surprised when I saw him in the movie. I'm like, Harold Ramis is in here. So it was fun.
Yeah, it came up as the doctor.
Yeah.
It was a nice little surprise. I thought for the longest time that Harold Ramis was doing the radio voice at the beginning.
Oh yeah,
and I went back through and I was looking at the credits, and it was somebody else. It wasn't him. It was two other actors. I can't remember who they were, but it wasn't him. And but yeah, I still hear it. Every time I hear that little radio announcement, I think that's Harold Ramis, but it's not.
Yeah.
So if anybody else is out there is thinking, oh yeah, that's Harold Ramis. Nope, it's not. Somebody else. But yeah, that was good to see him in it.
Yeah.
Miss Harold Ramis. But anyway, so what do you think? So one of the things that I have a history with the movie. I've seen it a lot. I've watched a lot of the behind the scenes things and the old DVDs and listened to some of the commentaries. So how do you think he got stuck in whatever this is, where he's repeating the same day over and over again?
I don't know. I didn't really give it that much thought.
Okay.
Well, what I did think about it, and I made a note about it. I really just the concept of this movie, because it's so unique. Just waking up every day, and it's just this recurring, and the way that he starts, how he starts to do different things throughout the day to see what the outcomes are, and clearly like he's living the day several times over to learn more about somebody before he actually like goes and tries to pick what was that woman that that he goes to pick her up and tells her, you know,
Betty or something.
Yeah, like clearly he had like lived that day multiple times, and then when he's, you know, Nancy, that's it. And then when he's learning like piano, you know, and all that, like multiple times. So I would be curious to see how many times he repeated that day over and over again, you know.
There are theories, and there have been some interviews with Ramis and the co-writer. I can't remember the co-writer's name off the top of my head. Danny Rubin. And they've talked about that. And the general consensus is it's been about... How long would you guess it's been?
I don't know. It was as many times as he had to go through, like especially for the piano lessons and, you know, all the things. I'd say at least 6 months going over and over on this.
All right. So it's generally believed to be about 10 years.
No way.
How long this has been.
Holy cow.
That's the general, the I say prevailing theory, or the average theory is about 10 years. In interviews, the Rubin, the writer, and Ramis have said, you know, whenever they originally conceived of this, they figured it'd be about 10 years for somebody to do all these different things and learn all these different things. You know, like, what is the old proverb, 10,000 hours practice to learn something, and so on and so forth. And in some later interviews, Ramis, I believe, is the one who said, yeah, you know, after a while I got to thinking about it more, and really I think he was probably there for 1,000 years. And this was like, it took him 1,000, because it was something about like studying Buddhism and how it takes a person 1,000 years to atone or change or something. It's something in the Buddhism philosophy about 1,000 years for repentance or something like that. And so, yeah, like the prevailing theory is about 10 years. And I think there's some people that did the math and they were like, yeah, it's about 8 years and so many months or something like that. Right. So 10 years makes sense.
Can you imagine?
But, yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's another thing that I wanted to point out. Like, the movie does an excellent job of showing him just spiraling down into this depression.
Oh yeah,
because you would get so tired of doing this every single day, and then when he starts to try to kill himself, and then he wakes up, so he tries it. He keeps trying different ways.
Maybe I'm not doing it right.
It's just, I mean, I cannot imagine doing that for that long. I mean, 6 months to me seemed like a long time, but if it's like 8 to 10 or even 1,000, I mean, can you imagine 1,000 years? Just, I mean,
you just grow up.
You would be
you'd know everything.
My gosh, you would be so blessed, like, and excited to finally get through that day, you know?
Yeah. That's why he's like, at the end, he's like, let's move here. I love it.
Exactly, yeah.
He's just happy to be out. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that part where he goes, he says, you know, I'm a god. That's the only answer, is that I'm a god. And then she's like, oh, so you think you're God? He's like, well, I don't think I'm God, but I'm definitely a god.
Not the god.
And yeah, not the god. And I think that's whenever he said that, and I was rewatching, I was like, okay, this is where like that 1,000-year thing kind of comes in, where I'm like, I could see 1,000 years, because after a while, you're definitely like, I got to be a god, because I'm repeating. You know everything about everything that's going on right there. And then you also look at like him progressing through, like you were talking about, like the different like phases of it. They reminded me of like the different stages of grief, you know, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. And that's where he's like, I must be a god. I've accepted it. This is my position. But yeah, it was interesting.
So what do you think, you asked me, like, what do I think caused all this? What do you think was kind of the root cause? Because I don't, you know, like I said, I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that, because I'm not really, you know, I don't know if maybe it was just him, if you look at it like Harold Ramis was saying with like, the Buddhist philosophy or whatever, like maybe that was like him, he had just become such a terrible person that it's just like, well, you're going to fix yourself. And, the universe is like, you're going to fix yourself and this is how it's going to happen. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there was actually a scene that got cut that explained it. And after the scene was cut, so like they ran it with test audiences, and the test audiences were like, kind of like, yeah, okay, it's a little hokey or whatever. And then they cut the scene and they ran it with more test audiences and asked them about it, and people were like they were like, oh yeah, I just kind of like, I didn't really give it much thought, I just went with it. Like the pacing of it worked out so well that you just kind of buy into it and you go with it. Like you don't need a real explanation for it. And that's why I was asking, because I was wondering if maybe you saw something, because everybody sees, like, anybody that does come up with something sees a different reason for it to be the way it is. I'm with you. I didn't really see anything. I just kind of bought into it and was like, yeah, here we go, let's roll. And didn't really think of a catalyst for it. Now, the scene that was cut, it was about a gypsy woman putting a hex on him.
Oh.
And that's why all this happened.
Yeah.
So without it, it's a much better film for sure.
It's better. I've said this before about other movies when we were talking about The Thing last week. Like, it's better. The ambiguity, I think, makes it better of not really knowing, what caused it. I mean, we know that what fixed it was that he changed himself and, he became a better person. And that's, I guess you could say the power. That's the power of love, with like when he wakes up next to
Andy McDowell.
Yeah. And so I don't know. But one of my favorite scenes is when he is sitting down there at the bed and breakfast with all the other elderly people. It's the evening, they're watching Jeopardy, and he's like just saying, and then
he just dead
the
turns.
folks are just like, wow, and they're like, that's just amazing. Like, and he's just like,
before the question's even read.
And he's drinking straight from like a bottle of Jim Beam or something while he's doing it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was whenever he was in the denial stage, I guess, or grieving or whatever. But yeah, that was fantastic. That was probably that was one of the, well, I don't want to say better bits, but that was a great one. Yeah, because like there's just so much to it. Like it's so layered. There's so many different like little interactions and like little sub stories within here. Like him with the old man, like him trying to save the old man, and then like ultimately having to just come to accept it. Like he can't. He's just gonna have to make that last day a little better for him. But that's about all he can do with it. I just feel like there was more to that. He like it was in the way that like he kept addressing that old man. I don't know if you noticed it, but like I swear a couple times he called him Pops and Dad. And I think there might be like a backstory with him and his own dad, and maybe a bad relationship like that formed this persona that he has of kind of being a jerk, and well, not kind of, but completely being a jerk. And I think it might have something to do with his relationship with his dad, but he never talks about his dad throughout the entire movie. But I bet there's something that was cut in the writing or somewhere, a deleted scene maybe I haven't seen, about something to do with his dad. I don't know. Did you pick up on any of that?
I do remember hearing him call him Pops, I thought, now that you mentioned it. But yeah, I mean, that would, I guess that would make sense a little bit with how he's just constantly trying to save this guy. But I don't know. I say that, and then I think like, well, maybe it's just him becoming a better person and actually trying to, and maybe that was the catalyst for him to actually
Try.
try. Yeah. I don't know. It was hard though. I mean, I'm sure it was hard to like. It'd be hard to be in that situation where it's like you just can't.
There's nothing you can do.
You can't do anything. Yeah,
he's just old, like she said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get old, and that's just what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was it was the kind of the beginning of where he started like really, you know, because he was right before that he kind of like he was sitting there and he's watching the bank drop off in the morning, and you know he's like reciting everything that they're saying.
Yeah.
You know, do you have change for a roll of quarters?
Yeah.
And all that, and then he goes over, he picks up a bag of money, and I wonder if he does that every day or if that was just like a thing he did for a little while.
Yeah. I wonder.
Yeah.
I can't envision him doing that in the later
Iterations.
days. Yeah, I can't.
Because it's not the good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean he's jacking up old ladies' cars.
Yeah,
you know,
which they're just like in there bouncing.
Yeah.
How hard was he hitting that jack?
I mean, but he's got that day down to like
He
a
does.
T. You know.
Yeah, it's like a ballet.
Yeah. Just okay. I'm done with this. I gotta go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and yeah.
And then there's that couple. He gets the monster rally, monster truck tickets for or whatever. They got married on that day.
Yeah.
Like they got married on Groundhog Day. Did they get married? Like, I wonder if their wedding was Groundhog themed.
Yeah.
Or in some way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the town's just like obsessed with it.
Oh, absolutely is. This is their thing. Like they've got the Pennsylvania polka playing and you know, everybody's out there on the square or on I guess it was the square and they're
It's a day for polka.
Yeah, it is. I can't imagine all those festivities for like 10 minutes. This is literally like but I guess they just make festivities throughout the entire day. Like they have that event and then they're like, oh, well, we're going to have this, you know, this date auction and we're going to have a ball and, you know.
And they had the ice carving. And all these different things. Yeah. And they had like the German restaurant. Like this town is incredible. They've got like I can see why maybe he didn't get bored because there's just like it seems like there's so much to do in this town. Like like all these different little places to go, and everywhere he goes it's packed, it's busy, like there's people there and they're all like out to do all these different things. Like he goes to the movies and I don't understand it. This is one of those scenes, and this is probably the one scene in the movie that feels a little out of place to me. It feels like it's just like Bill Murray goofing off, like a really strange ad lib. But it's whenever he goes and he's on a date with another girl, and he rolls up to the movie. It's right after he stole the money. He rolls up to the movie theater in the Rolls Royce, and he's dressed like a cowboy. He's dressed like Clint Eastwood. And she gets out of the car and she's got like the French maid outfit on and everything. She's like, you said it was going to be a costume party. And he's like, oh yeah, well, you know, I just really like this movie or whatever. And then they go into the movie. And he does that whole little bit about like, oh, that's my ex-girlfriend, Nancy.
I didn't quite get that. But the marquee, correct me if I'm wrong, but it said Heidi 2, didn't it?
Yes.
And I'm like, what are you dressed like? You're dressed up like Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
For Heidi 2.
Is there a Heidi 2?
I don't know.
I've never seen Heidi 1, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very strange. That was a very it seemed out of place.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It was just really, but I mean, I suppose like, you know, he's been there for years at this point, I'm sure. He's just got to be like going like, what else? What can I do? Yeah. What else? Let's mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, when you literally like, he can do anything, no consequences.
Yeah.
You know, what's he going to do? He's going to go to jail. And then he's just going to wake up in the morning in bed again and everything's slate's wiped clean, you know.
Or die.
Yeah.
He's there the next day. And like, I like how they took one of those turns where he dies to show us that like he died. Like he's in the morgue. They go identify the body. He died.
Yep.
But then he comes right back the next day.
Yep.
And it all resets.
So here's what I wonder, right? So let's say, for the sake of argument, it's 10 years that he's doing this.
Yeah.
Are there that many days of just different universes where time
Splintering
just kept
off.
going? Yeah.
Yeah. Ones where maybe he didn't live, and ones
Yeah.
where like he's robbed a bank and got to pay consequences for
He's
that
in
eventually.
prison and,
Yeah. Or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. You know, him and Nancy are together and he's
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that one, even whenever I was little, I found to be a little it felt wrong. And but yeah, like I guess it is what it is. And it's not like the permanent thing of it. I find it's really funny to me that this is PG. This movie's PG. It did not get the 13.
Should have got 13.
It should have got
this
13.
This was a hard PG.
This
right?
was a hard. This is a 1993 PG too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it was just a PG, but I guess the language was toned down enough and everything was just suggestive enough that they could get away with a PG. Yeah.
There was the scene when what was her name? Why can't I think of her name? She was the main female lead. And
Rita.
When he brings Rita back to his room and he's like basically forcing himself on her.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is this? Like this isn't PG here.
No, yeah. But she keeps rebuffing him and rebuffing him over it. And like, you can like, that scene I really liked how like, it just like, she wasn't gonna have it. She was not falling for it. It wasn't genuine. She could tell. And like, she just wasn't falling for it. And you could see him getting frustrated with it. He's like, why isn't this working? Like, this should have worked. Why is this not working? Because it wasn't genuine.
Yeah.
He wasn't being true. And that one I kind of liked. I liked how that all worked out.
Well, along the same line, like he does it later when they're back at the park and the kids start throwing snowballs at him, and he like is really like, oh, kids are throwing snowballs, or whatever, and then like he goes
like
down,
this. I want my own kids. Blah blah blah.
I want 1,000 kids, or whatever. And then, they get back down the snow where they're supposed to, almost kiss. And he's like, just like trying to rush it. Like, let's get over this and let's get to, where we need to be at here. And, it's very well played by Bill Murray. Just all of the different.
Oh, the range for sure.
Oh my gosh. In like I said earlier, like how true would all this be? Like, you got the depression and everything, but like he wakes up and he just starts breaking the alarm clock in different ways, and I think the funniest one is it's the third time he wakes up, and it's just like all his reactions and everything to me are just like, they're just so funny, like it's not even what he says. It's just how he just gets up out of bed, when he goes and does whatever. And I think that's the day that he goes downstairs and he asks the landlady, he's like, do you ever have deja vu? Yeah. And she's like, I don't think so, but I can check the kitchen.
I want to know what she thought deja vu was.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was funny.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Ned comes up to him very aggressively, and I wondered the first couple times I watched this because I didn't catch it at first, but I wondered, does he know Ned? Does Ned really know him, or isn't this like a sales trick that Ned is using? Like he recognized him from TV, and he's just trying to like sell some life insurance.
Yeah,
but it comes out later on that like they do know each other from like that, they went to high school together or whatever, and he dated his sister and all this other stuff. But yeah, like that was, I don't know. Yeah, so Ned knew him, but Ned was just, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that train of thought.
Yeah, that's all right. The Ned thing was just, it was Ned was just weird.
He
right?
was, yes.
He was. I mean, I get like he's
weird,
a salesman.
but fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I imagine that was a lot of fun to do for Stephen
Yeah.
Tobolsky there. But yeah, he was odd.
It was.
Certainly,
Yeah.
It was a bit part for sure.
Yeah. He's just. It's almost like he's he's off-putting the way he's trying to make the sale.
Yeah.
But I like it. Like the last day, he's like, "Oh, Phil's great. He bought life insurance. He bought insurance on his house. Turn hole. He bought water damage insurance. he bought the whole shebang.
Yeah,
he's like, it's a great day for me."
Yeah. I like whenever Bill Murray runs into him on the street, like he just like starts running into him over and over again and dealing with him in different ways. And like one time he just like straight up punches him in the face,
lays him out,
or like Ned. He just like pulls him in for a hug, and he's like, "What are you doing for the rest of the day?" And he's like, "I gotta go." Yeah, that was fun. I really liked whenever they did that, where it was just like, let's focus on one character and we're just going to hammer away on it like a few different iterations and just like kind of show rapidly the progression through that character.
Yeah.
And that was always a lot of fun with those. How about whenever he kidnaps the groundhog and takes
the first
off?
time he tries to kill himself. Yeah, that was.
He could probably survive that.
Yeah.
Kaboom.
I like that it was like. I like that he's just like, I'm done with this stupid groundhog, and because he's taking him out with him. Like he's like, I'm done with this thing.
Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
He was ready to be done, and then when he wakes up the next day and he's like, that didn't work. So then it shows him like going downstairs and getting the toaster, pulling it out of the wall, and he's just very serious, just like walking, and he runs the bath, and then the next thing you know, like all the lights go out in the building, and what else? He tried to jump, or he jumped off the water tower or something like that.
The hotel, and then walks out into traffic. And apparently, at some point, he caught himself on fire because like he talked about it with Rita later on. He's like, I've been stabbed, I've been shot, I've been lit on fire, and electrocuted like every way that you could possibly die. He had tried it, which, man, that's like, because some of the like fire, you're not going right away.
Oh
like,
no, he's feeling every bit of
some
that
pain.
Like,
for
that's
a little
some
bit.
Desperation of like, I'm just ready to die. Because I've done this so many times, I can't get out of it. Like, maybe I can get out this way.
Yeah,
like that would be rough.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the show? They did it a couple of years ago. They did it back in like I think it was like 2015. Last Man on Earth with.
I never watched it. I'm familiar with it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, so like the premise is like everybody on Earth dies of like some mystery virus, and he's the only one left, and he's like in like Arizona or something, I can't remember. And yeah, like it's just kind of this, like he's just wandering around. Like I think the first episode is like he's driving a Winnebago, and he goes to like the White House and just like takes like whatever he wants, like some artwork and some other things, and just kind of like walks around, and he's like, I guess I'm the president now or something. And then he goes home with it all and like hangs like the Constitution on his wall or something, or in his bathroom or something like that. And but yeah, like he's just like completely like he's been alone, and I think he had only been alone for a couple of years, but he was like that. He was just like, this is it, like life is boring and meaningless without other people in it. And I can see that a lot here, where it's just like, without a tomorrow, what is the point of today? Yeah. And like, man,
I mean, it really, like, I know this is a comedy, but it's pretty deep too. Like,
it is. And there's a lot of like philosophical work about this. Like there's college courses where they teach philosophy and use this movie as part of the teachings because of like just how it's structured and how deep it goes on things, which is just insane to me. Like, because like that was one of the things that they were talking about with Bill Murray and Ramis is that Bill Murray sat with the other writer because he would call up Ramis like every morning, first thing in the morning, and be like, "Hey, I got these ideas on the script." Like before they even started shooting, while they're still writing the script. And he's like, "I got these ideas. Let's talk about it. Let's get it down and everything." And eventually, Ramis was like, "I can't do it anymore. Like, Ruben, you got to sit with him and write with him because he's driving me crazy." And he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So like him and Ruben sat together and like rewrote the script a lot, and like apparently like rewrote the script so much that it got really far away from the original idea, and then the three of them started working together and kind of like worked it back to more or less what it was in the beginning. But yeah, like I could see Murray's hands in this, especially because with his philosophical outlook on things, I can see that a lot in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's got layers. Like you watch this thing a few times and you pick up on so much every time you watch it. Like I still pick up on new things on it every time I watch it. Like the newlywed couple, I didn't consider that they got married on Groundhog Day. Like in the beginning, he introduces them as a engaged couple in the restaurant scene, and how the girl is nervous about going forward.
She's having second thoughts.
She's having second thoughts, yeah. And then later on at the dance or whatever, at the dance they're married, and so they had a wedding on Groundhog Day. And it's just like little things like that where I'm like, oh yeah, like that's crazy. But what? They had a dance? Like, what year is this? Where is this happening? I don't know. I'm not that tapped into my community. Maybe it's different like where you are, but there's not a lot of adult dances going on around me.
No, there's not here either. I could see it happening in a couple towns, like really small towns that are around here.
All right.
But I don't know how big. What's the name of this town?
Puxatawny?
Puxatawny.
It seems kind of big.
Yeah. Like everybody knows everybody, and But
they got a costume shop, movie theater, German restaurant.
Like I think that's what's charming about it, right? Like it's got all this stuff, and it has a sense of community to it, and who wouldn't want to live in a place where everybody's friendly with everybody, they know each other, you see somebody on the street, "Hey Derek, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing great today, good to see you." Let's go over to the German restaurant later and have something to eat,
brats and big beers.
Yeah. It's like, it really is like, it's just Americana, and,
yeah, it's true.
And I do love that scene towards the end where they're at the dance and they're auctioning off dates, and that just seems like something that would be like, it's almost like 50s America a little bit. And I love how his cameraman, I can't remember his name, he gets up there, Larry gets up there,
like, hey.
And they're like, "I got 35 cents. And he's
2 bits. That was great. He was so sure that he was going to go for more.
Oh my gosh.
I like how he's trying to hook up with Nancy in that scene, and he's like on her, and she's like,
she doesn't want anything to do with it. I think I'm going to go to the dance, go over to the party. That's a good idea. I think I'll go with you. And she's just like, "Oh, come on!" Like she's just wanting to get out of there. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
It's like the little interaction and how they change with each iteration. Like you almost forget that, like, oh yeah, like that kind of resets. Like the characters kind of reset, but at the same time, like their growth isn't. They don't really change much. Like with interacting with Bill, they don't really change much other than like him being able to kind of manipulate the outcome of the conversation a little bit. Nothing really changes with them. So like every time you see them, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's the same character. They're doing the same thing they would have done either way, regardless of whatever happened during one of the last iterations of this. But yeah, did you notice his brother in the movie? Bill Murray's brother.
Where was he at on that?
Brian Doyle Murray. He played Buster, one of the guys, the guy that pulls out the groundhog.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
All
almost
right.
always got one of his like brothers, and like he's got so many brothers that
Yeah.
are in acting, and like, and they're not small actors. Like they're
Yeah.
all like fairly,
Yeah.
like they've had like some big part in something or some long stint on something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I liked.
it's impressive.
Oh, he played Art in The Burbs. He was in there. He was the old kind of the drunk that was
Yes,
used to be. He was in the Navy, and he left the Navy, and now he wishes that he would have retired from the Navy.
which that scene whenever he meets those two guys in the bar and he realizes there are no consequences.
Yeah,
And they get in the car and they start driving. That was probably one of my favorite scenes.
yeah,
I really like the line whenever they're on the railroad tracks and they're driving and they're like, the train starts coming at them and the two guys inside them are like, the
Yeah.
train's coming. And he goes, I'm betting he's going to swerve first. That was great.
yeah.
But yeah, that whole scene was just like, that was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that scene. It was a good,
Yeah.
like, you got the cops chasing them, and they're both just like so hammered. And then like the cops finally catch up to him, and he's like, "Yeah, let me get 2 double doubles, fries, and some chocolate shakes, and a Coke, and some flapjacks. Yeah, let me get some flapjacks too."
Flapjacks too. Yeah,
That guy with the flapjacks, man, he knew what he wanted.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wanted some flapjacks. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I wonder, like, at what point do you take a risk of, which I guess for him it was what, day 3, day 4,
Right,
but, like,
day 4 or 5, something like that. He
yeah.
wasn't that far
at
in.
what point do you take a risk to just be like, all right, I'm gonna do something that's gonna get me arrested?
Yeah.
You know,
But I mean, really, like what he got arrested for, it would be probably drunken disorderly. Maybe like he wasn't even really drunk,
Yeah.
so probably just like reckless endangerment. And then
Yeah.
like he played the celebrity card and probably get out of it pretty
yeah,
easily.
yeah,
So I don't know. It was a calculated risk, I'd say.
Mm-hmm,
I think. But yeah, like he definitely didn't jump straight to like suicide or anything like
yeah,
that, which is
yeah,
that would have been a jump
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I would have like tried to drive on the train tracks. So maybe I would have just like gotten drunk and just done something wild around the town. So they would, they'd pick you up and they'd say, okay, go sleep it off or whatever. And then you wake up and you're like, oh. But I don't know.
Was that before or after he did the pencil trick? I think that was after he did the pencil trick.
Yeah.
Because that's
he did,
whenever you
he
feel
broke
like,
the
oh,
pencil and then
yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to wake up here no matter what, and it's all going to reset. I like how, though, like, it was like day 3 before or 4 maybe before he was like, okay, so this isn't just one big prank. Like, nobody's like, I think day 3 he was still like, maybe they're messing with
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah.
which is just like the most elaborate prank
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I like that.
The one thing that really bothered me about this movie, it's really my only gripe about it, is that he wakes up on February 2nd at 6 in the morning every day, right?
Yeah.
The sun is beaming in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure, we live in the same time zone. And I know you're a little farther south than I am, but like when I wake up at 6 in the morning on February 2nd, it's still dark outside.
Yeah.
And I'm
That
sure
was actually a thing
Pennsylvania
in
is farther north than we are. So,
yeah. That was in the wiki, one of the what do you call it, errors or whatever in the movie that somebody had listed was the time that he wakes up at 6:30 or something like that,
6 a.m. on the
6
nose,
a.m.
yeah.
And the sun's up, and they're
Yep.
like, I live in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania, and I'm here to tell you the sun does not rise at 6 a.m. on February 2nd.
Yeah.
It's more like I think they were like it's like 9:11 or something like that before the sun comes up or whatever it is. But I was just like, that's what the internet's for, is for
That's right.
correcting us,
Continuity errors and,
Catching those
issues.
little
Yeah.
things. Right? But I don't know. Maybe he had the clock. Maybe the clock was set wrong.
Maybe. I don't know. Now, what do you think there was that one night when Rita stays with him, and she falls asleep,
Yeah.
and he's like reading poetry or something, and it's like 3 a.m. at that point, right?
Uh-huh.
And then he eventually falls asleep, and he wakes up at 6. Do you think if he would have stayed awake, that the day would have continued on?
No, because it's 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like, I think he mentions it at one point or alludes to it.
Like he's tried to stay up all night
yeah,
to see it.
I think there was one time where he stayed up and he saw like 6 a.m. and then like, or it was one night, I think it was the pencil night. Like he broke the pencil, he set it on the alarm clock, and then he was staring at the alarm clock, and it slowly panned over to the alarm clock and it rolled over to 6. And then it was the next day, like he just sat up out of bed and it was the next day.
Okay.
So I think that kind of explained that, yeah, it's 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. That was my understanding of it, anyways. This is a 24-hour period. So, like, so there's no, like, well, it's like 23 hours or it's 22 hours, but yes, straight 24-hour period.
Straight 24, yeah.
Yeah. So, this is all about the Groundhog. I don't watch the Groundhog in fact, I don't know the outcome of Groundhog Day for this year. Well, I guess we aren't at Groundhog Day yet, but
the time
whenever
we're
this comes out,
it's
it will
not,
happen.
yeah.
We're a couple weeks behind, but so I don't really follow the Groundhog. I don't put much stock into the Groundhog, but how accurate do you think the Groundhog is?
I wish I had that statistic up because I heard it one time on Groundhog's Day. I don't think, if I remember right, I don't think it's very accurate. But I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't follow it either. I'm like, what? How's this gonna? Go ahead.
Well,
it looks like you've got something.
I have the answer. According to I guess history or whatever, Puxatawny Phil's average accuracy. You want to venture a guess?
The average accuracy ever since they've started doing this.
Yeah, for Punxsutawney Phil only. Yeah,
20% accuracy.
Oh, okay. Well, 39.
39. Okay. Okay.
So it's about a coin toss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's since they've been doing it since the 60s. So
really,
it didn't go that far back.
It doesn't seem like it's been doing it that doesn't seem like very long. Like the way that they carry on about this, like in real life every year, is like we've been doing this since before God was even around. Like it's such a tradition.
Yeah, well, that's what the one I pulled up. It said from 1969 to present, it's 39% accurate.
Maybe that's when they started like doing statistics on it or something.
Logging it, or it became. Yeah. Let's talking about Puxatawny Phil. Maybe there was a different one before that. I don't know. I haven't gone into too much into Groundhog lore, so I'm not sure.
That's an episode for another day. We're gonna go.
Welcome
to this podcast takes tokens as we discuss Groundhog lore for the day. That'll be next year.
But yeah. So speaking of the Groundhog, the Groundhog's real name was Scooter, not Puxatawny Phil. So Scooter was the real Groundhog, and Scooter did not get along with Bill Murray.
Oh, really?
He bit Murray several times.
Oh my gosh!
And Murray had to have stitches from it a couple times.
Oh wow! Wow.
So they did not get along.
I wonder. So was his name, the character's name being Phil, was that intentional to have it the same name as the Groundhog?
I wondered. Yeah, like it has to be, right? And well, if not that, that's at the very least, I'm sure the reason why the newscaster sent him out there. Oh, his name's Phil? Yeah. Send him out for the Groundhog. Punxsutawney Phil. Yeah. And so he runs into Ned, who he knows from his past. Did he grow up in Punxsutawney is my other question.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah, so I gathered that because Punxsutawney doesn't seem like it's very far from Pittsburgh. And every town apparently in Pennsylvania has a P name to it. But I gathered that maybe Ned came from Pittsburgh and settled down, he got married or whatever and settled down in Punxsutawney.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know where Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and then he was from. What was the other one?
He's from
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
You guys going to Pittsburgh? Yeah. That's pretty decent drive, I suppose. Yeah. So if we did Punxsutawney to Pittsburgh, PA, we're talking about it's an hour and a half drive. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could see somebody.
Yeah. They're close to it. For sure. I mean, they don't really talk about it much, but just like things like that, and then like him knowing. Well, I mean, he knows so much because he's been in and out so many times, but I don't know. I always got kind of the impression that he was, if not from there, from close to there. For sure. But it's just kind of always a question that I had.
Yeah.
Is he from there? But yeah, and then so we're talking about how he repeats for 10 years this day and lives quite a bit. Whenever it rolls over to February 3rd and he goes back about his normal life, do you think he forgets things? Like he goes to like use the ATM and he's like, I can't remember my PIN number because it's been like 10 years.
Yeah.
People's phone numbers, like, because back then, you had people's numbers are memorized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine he's forgotten a lot.
Like, forget how to give the weather.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a job for 10 years.
Yeah,
or if we want to go with Harold Ramis, he hasn't worked for 1,000 years.
1,000 years, yeah.
That would be...
You would forget some things.
Oh, yeah, you would, yeah.
And then you think he wakes up like the next day, like for days after that, wakes up and it's just like, oh, it's not the same day again.
You would have
it's a different day,
right?
Yeah,
you would have
like,
to
how
every
long
day
would
wake
that
up
last?
and be like I would have to go to sleep in a different room every night to make sure, like when I wake up, I'm not back in,
repeating again.
Yeah.
You think like the next Groundhog's Day, he had a little anxiety growing up to it?
I would not be staying in Punxsutawney
It's just
that
like,
next Groundhog's Day.
if I'm going to have to repeat this day, I'm going to be in Hawaii or Tahiti or something
Vegas
like
or
that. Yeah. Somewhere else entirely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I think I have ran about everything I had to say about this movie.
It's gosh, I enjoyed it a lot more than I honestly thought I was going to.
Good.
I didn't think I was going to hate it, but I definitely thought it was, and honestly, I was expecting more of a comedy than what it was, which is fine. Like, it turned out really, like, I found myself like more invested in what was happening with Phil and just his psychology and psychosis as he's like going through everything, than, there was definitely funny parts in it, but I found that more interesting than the jokes, just to see how's this going to end? How's he going to get out of this loop?
Yeah. Which there was I know before we roll out, I had seen something about the original ending for this was actually, so the way they originally ended it, it was going to be that he wakes up and, that's it. Like, he just wakes up and you're left wondering, like, did he wake up in the same day? Kind of an
Inception sort of
a
thing.
Like, or was it the next day? Like, who knows? And then there was, because it was all about, like, well, should Rita be there with him? Should she not? Should he be wearing the same clothes? And then it was like, is that going to give it away if he's wearing the same clothes? And I didn't notice that he was wearing the same clothes whenever he woke up. I mean, because, like, the shirt kind of looks like a sleeper. Like when you see it from, like, here up, from the collar up, it just kind of looks like a sleeper shirt.
They had blue jeans on, though.
Yeah, but, whenever he wakes up, all you see is, like, his face and maybe his collar a little bit. Yeah, and then she reaches across and she hits the alarm clock, and then we're awake. And Yeah, so like there was the original ending. They were gonna just like it was just gonna be like the next day, and they ran it with test audiences, and the test audiences were just kind of like, okay, so that's it, it's over. Like, we're kind of left like wondering like, oh, what happened?
Yep.
We need a little payoff, and so then they put in this ending and ran it again with some test audiences, and it was just like through the roof. And so then, which this movie, like in the little bit of research I did, seemed like it got tested a lot. I don't know how you sign up to be one of these like audience test members, but I think that'd be a fantastic little side job if I could preview movies and like give my little notes on them. Oh, come on,
criticize them and just this isn't good here. Let's change this. I'm sure you would have to be. It had to be the same test audience that they bring back in.
Well, I don't know. I think you'd want a fresh. Right? You'd want a fresh perspective because they've already seen the movie.
Yeah.
I would imagine you wanted to. Well, I don't know how that works.
I don't either. Maybe they have a certain sample size that's already seen it and is watching it again, and then they. I don't know.
Which, as much as they tested this, I'm surprised anybody went to the theaters and saw it after it came out. Because it seems like everybody already saw it in testing. But,
Well, we've got no comments again this week.
No more comments.
So,
all right, that's fine.
leave us some comments. We look forward to reading them and reading them on the air, and we like hearing hearing what you got to say. So, like and subscribe.
Yes,
subscriptions they really do help us out quite a bit. So we would appreciate that. Question for you, our icebreaker for next week.
All right.
Are you ready?
All right.
It's your 10th birthday.
Okay.
It's your 10th birthday. You got $100. What are you spending that $100 on?
All right. 10th birthday, so that'd be 91.
91 for you, 97 for me. What are we spending our $100 on?
Well, I'll tell you. No, I'll tell you next week.
Okay. That'll work. Until then, we've reached another checkpoint, my friends. Again, sharing is caring. Thank you very much for listening, for comments. Keep them coming. Like and subscribe, like we said. And until next time, be kind and rewind.
See y'all around.
This podcast takes tokens is a Clay Street production.